Well, I've been making baskets for 20 years. I started work with my teacher, Madeline Tomer-Shea, in 1988. And I began working with her in a language class on Indian Island and soon became interested in making baskets. We formed a really strong bond and we worked together for 5 years. And I think she saw me as someone, who she could entrust with the future of her traditional basketry style. And then at the same time, we were realizing that there were fewer than a dozen of us in all 4 federally recognized tribes under the age of 50 learning to make these traditional baskets. So at the same time, we were beginning to form the movement of the Maine Indian Basketmakers Alliance. So upon her passing in 1993, we founded the organization that year and have been working, and I've been the founding director and working with traditional basket makers for 15 years to help save the traditional ash and sweetgrass basketry traditions. Half of the founding board has passed away, so really indicating that the majority of the founding members of the Maine Indian Basketmakers Alliance were elders. And at the time, the average age of basket makers was 63 in 1993. And at the 10-year mark in 2003, we counted about double the number of basket makers, and our average age had dropped to 43. So the 10 years of intensive programming, traditional arts apprenticeships, tribal community basketry workshops, and 3 annual markets that we established had clearly made a difference in helping to save the tradition. I remember this time of year in July, there was an annual Indian pageant on Indian Island, and my family always came for that, and we were made to dance in the little ceremony there on the weekends. And then sometimes I watched her table while they went off to Mass on Saturday afternoon. And so I think of that now, like as a 10, 12-year-old kid, that she really couldn't have been receiving, much monetary, value for those baskets to leave a kid in charge of the table. By then, that would have been like the 1960s. And still a prolific basket maker into, the 70s when she passed away. And along with the blocks and tools, I inherited a basket cover that she was working on. So even making baskets close to being a 90-year-old woman. My great-grandmother made she was really known for barrel baskets and sewing baskets and baskets like this, a fancy curly bowl basket and sweetgrass flats. And so having inherited those same forms, I make my baskets, in the same weaving style, because the styles and traditions of basketry are passed down not only through tribes, but through families. And this piece also reflects a close relationship with my teacher, Madeline Shea. This would be an identical basket to one that she would have taught me 20 years ago to make. Well, the challenges are still really great for us to continue the work here. The organization, as a small nonprofit, struggles to continue to meet its bottom line, and we're trying to serve these diverse communities in Maine, located in very rural, challenging places. The Micmac community is 200 miles north of here, and the Passamaquoddy and Maliseet communities are 100 miles one way. So here's this organization in Old Town that is trying to continue to provide programming in the way of traditional arts apprenticeships, and particularly, the teaching of the next generation, the traditional community basketry workshops. That's challenging for us, for the price of travel is going way up with the cost of fuel, and again, to continue having teachers. One of the big challenges, remains also is having people to harvest the materials, identify the material, and actually learn to go and get it. It's extremely arduous and laborious work, and the processing and the harvesting of the raw materials really hasn't changed much in 100 years. It's not easier. It's not more convenient. And, you know, with all of today's modern conveniences, that still hasn't changed. Somebody has to hike into the Maine forest and spend maybe a week searching for adequate tree that will be able to be pounded for splints. And it's very tricky business. And, you know, being in the Maine woods is not easy. And there are still very few young men learning how to identify ash and process the materials. It remains a precarious tradition. While we've made success in bringing younger people into the tradition, still there's a lot of knowledge lost every time someone passes away. Sweetgrass gathering areas are being developed and bought up, private property, so the whole landscape of land ownership has changed, which affects the material access. Also, life in the rural reservation communities is very difficult still. Many challenges to encourage young people to get out, and this is a nationwide problem, you know, with American youth, and so tribal youth are no exception, you know, to get outside. And the thing in our favor is there's a lot of concentration still of tradition bearers in the tribal communities here in Maine, and a great pride in, you know, passing on and learning, you know, this knowledge.